Hi there, I'm Joel Chippendale, and I'm talking to Luca today. Luca Rossi is a former CTO and head of engineering, and he's now the founder of Refactoring FM, which is a weekly newsletter about engineering leadership, which I personally find really useful. It's full of practical and insightful advice. I've got a few questions to kick things off with, but obviously you've got the Ask a Question button there. Please put your questions in, and we're going to slightly accelerate this session so you still get a break. So forgive Luca and I if we speak faster than usual.
Yeah.
I'm particularly pleased to be involved in this chat because job ads are such an important part of the hiring process. It's where people first see you. To kick off, Luca, what should you include in a really good job ad?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for having me, Joel. Really happy to be here. I would start by saying that I've had the privilege to run the job board for the refactoring community for a while. And so in addition to having hired engineers for many years, I've now kind of behind the curtain, look to hundreds of job posts and how they perform with hard numbers about views, number of applicants, and so on. So as a good engineer would do, I've been trying to draw correlations, about what content performs better and why. So you will be hearing my own take, kind of backed by numbers, okay? So the first thing that we should consider when thinking about what goes into a job post is that different people are motivated by different things. Okay, so there are engineers, for example, who really care about some technology. Okay, so they will look for a job where they can apply some tech. Others are motivated by some domain. So they may want to join some fintech company or Web3. And others, care about culture or stage of your product. So they may look for early stage startups or remote and synchronous friendly teams. So you don't really know that in advance. So my feeling is that your best bet is to create a job post that is very informative. So I don't think there is even such a thing as a too informative job post. Okay. And I've seen that the top performing posts usually are pretty clear about three main areas that are the company, the position, and the interview process. So the company means the vision and mission of your company, like from here to a number of years. It includes the context, like where are you now? Are you raising funding? Are you growing? Have you just raised funding? And this has been especially relevant, in recent times with the downturn, many layoffs, as you may have heard. So people have become very cautious about what kind of company they're joining. And then the position, of course. So, of course, what does your team look like, what they're up to, your responsibilities, technology stack, your salary range, and so on. And finally, one piece that is often overlooked is the interview process. So, like, where do we go from here? How long does it take? What are the interviews like? How do you prepare for that? So it is important because for people, this is a very stressful part. So many, don't want to put themselves into like processes where you have 10 to 15 interviews across 2 months time. Okay, so I don't want to throw shade to anyone, but I think we all know some companies who do that. So if you describe the process and make people feel this is doable and it doesn't take too much time, it can make a big difference. So these are, I think, the three main areas.
So I think that's really interesting. You're talking there about the interview process being valuable to share with people, given that Ola was just saying from a diversity perspective, that's really important as well. What's good for diversity is good for everyone is coming out here.
It's good for everyone, I think, especially, if you, and we go out of the job post topic for a little time, but if you invest in having a hiring process that is lean, that includes a few interviews, like 4 to 5 interviews across just a few weeks, it pays off to describe it and tell people that is doable for them. Okay, that they don't have to do this crazy preparation in advance and put in this effort. And really, you can also help people preparing for the interviews. So you can double down on it, including resources to make them perform better in the interviews, aligning, the incentives of everyone.
It's great to hear. I wonder what you think about including salaries in job ads or not. I know a lot of people ask questions about that.
Yeah, I've always been a big proponent of including the salary range, honestly, but only recently I've had, the hard numbers to back this up, because job posts that include salary ranges routinely on my job board, and then talking with engineer hiring managers that are friends, routinely get 3 to 4 times more applications than others. So it's insane. And that includes even job posts where the salary range is kind of in the lower end. Okay. Because it's not about the money itself, it's about the commitment. Okay. So the candidate feels that there is a commitment by the company that is stronger and is more, trustworthy than otherwise. Uh, and this is not just useful for the candidate. It creates alignment, from the get-go, and avoids you to get into situations that you really don't want to put yourself into. Because let's say you don't include the salary range and you go through the whole interview process just to see your offer refused by the candidate. That is a massive failure of your process, because at that point you have invested like tens of hours, for hiring managers, engineers, stakeholders from other roles, and think that maybe you have find a really great candidate that people are looking forward to work with. And everybody is extremely pissed off that when candidates do not accept your offer, right? Because they were already feeling how it is like to work with these guys. And of course, you have invested so much time, so there is a real economic value to it. I think it's really important, not just for the number of applications and conversion rates, but also, to simplify negotiation and alignment.
Yeah, that sounds excellent. It sounds like there's a bit of a theme developing here about being transparent with candidates through the
Yeah,
process.
absolutely.
And I was really interested to hear those stats around the numbers for salaries being shown on job ads, because I know lots of people are nervous. What if people think our salaries are low? And it sounds like even there, if you're putting it out there, it's really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're touching a good point, because many companies will tell you that they do not include salary range because it gives them an upper hand at negotiation. I mean, aside from the fact that this is not true, I think at all. But I think that there is a real, sneaky reason sometimes. That is that publishing the salary ranges also brings transparency internally. Okay, and some companies are kind of not ready for this because they have salary brackets that are totally messed up. I mean, in engineering space, you see this all the time. You see peers with incredible pay gaps. You see managers who earn way less than their reports. So people are not always comfortable at publishing, transparent salaries because they had to do their homework first. But it absolutely pays off if you do.
Yeah. It tells you something about the culture within the company and how they're approaching that openness. That's great.
Yes.
Is there anything you see people putting too much of into job ads? You said be very, communicative, share lots of information. Is there anything you see too much of?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer probably is no, because you might say you should always include information, and if you don't want to make the job post itself too long, you can include further links, to additional materials for candidates to deep dive if they want. But if I have to mention something that maybe people put too much of, this is probably tech requirements. I've seen many companies being really prescriptive about things that can be easily taught and learned by candidates in a few months' time, at most. Okay, and I think this is a mistake, because it's easier in this market usually to hire smart people than experienced people. And people often, understate how fast smart people can learn what they don't know. That, of course, kind of shifts the perspective and puts more burden maybe on you internally on developing training and things to assist, junior engineers and people who join. But I think that's a good investment, because at least that is something that is 100% under your control. Okay, you can measure it, you can improve it, make it better, and so on. While instead the pool and the number of candidates you get for your positions is not 100% under your control, right? There is the market, there are other factors. So I think it's a worthwhile investment.
Great. So what's the most common mistake that you see people making when they're writing their job ads?
If I had to say, again, short answer, naming just one thing, I think the most impactful mistake that many people make is not including the salary range, because they really don't know the impact that this has. I mean, on the number of applications, and also, on situations that you mentioned before. But I think in general, if we had to identify a more generic theme, is that sometimes you take things for granted about your company and you don't include them in the job post, not thinking that they are useful to the candidate. You know the saying that goes that where you're in the forest, at some point, maybe you see the trees and you don't see the forest anymore. So you tend to think that people know your company, while instead you should put yourself in the shoes that really don't know anything. And maybe they will, and they will do their own homework after they've seen the job post. But you have that chance to convert people and make people interested in what you do as total strangers. And so you have to be very convincing and informative, like you would be pitching your company to an investor.
Yeah, I think that's a good reminder. It's all too easy for us to assume that everyone understands our company and that everything that we do in our company is just normal.
Exactly.
And it's different. And yeah. Can I ask a question from the audience here, Luca? So we've got, is A/B tests for job posts a thing? That's asked by Mateus.
Yeah, I've never done such a thing myself, but I have to say it depends. As for, general A/B tests, it depends on your pool of applicants and if you, receive many applications. I mean, if you have a large pool, you receive many applications, and so numbers are statistically significant. You can try different things. Of course, you can try to put different, things on different platforms, but usually you don't have such a luxury, And when you have, at least in this space, so it's hard really to draw conclusions on testing different ads.
Yeah, unless you've got hundreds of candidates coming through.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. One other question from the chat from Mayank was, how do you negotiate with a candidate after a range has been shared? And I think they're worried that you will be forced to the upper end of that range if you shared a range.
Well, it really depends, right? The first answer would be that, there are various components of the salary. So there is, the compensation, there might be a signing bonus, there might be equity, there might be, if you're office-based, relocation packages and other things. So I think even if you do not share the salary range for any reason that would be reasonable or not, it is wise to have an early discussion as early as in the screening interview. So, to limit the damage of not talking through these things until the very end. And then I think it's totally fair to be fair with the candidate to follow up to the theme that you have mentioned, to be fair and open to the candidate about maybe not feeling like going to the ceiling of the range right now, but maybe focusing on the growth opportunities within the company, sharing how it works, with performance reviews, with career opportunities. And, in my experience, if the candidate thinks that they have a real opportunity of growth personally and professionally, and as a byproduct for compensation in the company, they tend to be less focused on the here and now. Okay.
Yeah, that makes complete sense, Luca. Have you got any last advice that you want to share before we wrap up?
I think we already covered many things. I think people should really care about job posts as it was about selling and pitching your company, as I said before, to an investor, to someone who has to invest in the company, because the candidates and the employees, it is what they do. Okay, so spend time and effort on that. I mean, read it out loud as it was a story, as it was a pitch. Okay, make proofreads with other people in the team who are not involved in the creation and writing of the document. So people are smart and have good ideas, but they have to have the time to write them down, to think through it. And sometimes in many companies, the writing of a job post takes too little time to let good ideas emerge and refine the content as it should.
Thank you. I think that's a great thought to end on. Imagine that your candidates are investors in your company, thinking about investing years of their life working with you.
It's true.
Pitch it in that sense. I think that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Luca. That's really
Thank you. Thank you, Joel, for having me and all the City of Craft. Thank you.